So today is December 10th, 2023, and this is Jackie Beckett, and I am interviewing Marilyn Kopelman at her home in Greenwood Village, Colorado, for the Colorado NCJW Oral History Project. So let's start with where you were born.
I was born in Brooklyn, New York, but I only lived there for a few years before we moved to Vallejo, California because of the war. The war had broken out, and my father was assigned to shipbuilding in Vallejo.
Great. So how did you end up in Colorado?
Well, as a Vallejo girl, and then later a girl from Long Island, I wasn't too much into New York and its ways. So when my husband got his MD degree, we looked at each other and said, where should we live? Not necessarily staying in New York. And we said, well, let's try Colorado. It's about as bizarre a place to live as you can get from Colorado. So my husband went out, took a look, and he said, it's gorgeous. And we were on our way, and that was in 1971.
Wow. So let's back up just a little bit and talk about your parents. Tell me what their names were.
Abraham and Sylvia, and they were both born in the United States, but their parents, one was from Soviet Russia, and the other from Poland. And their parents both left Europe prior to the Holocaust in order to become Americans, because they knew that America was a land of opportunity, and they wanted to leave their native countries and come to the United States. My grandfather wanted to have a Christmas tree in his house so he would truly be an American.
And what was your maiden name?
It was Gruntfest, which I hated. And at the time, we never thought that you could change your name. I don't know, lots of people did. But we were a very kind of uneducated Jewish family, and just believed that who you are and what you are, you remain. You just look for little opportunities to grow.
So were your parents involved in the Jewish community?
They weren't involved in the Jewish community. They were afraid, I think they were afraid to remain Jewish. My grandmother lived in Brooklyn, and she, they wanted to be Americans. That was why they came here. So if you stayed immersed in a Jewish community, you weren't an American.
Okay. And where did you go to high school?
I went to high school at Hempstead High, in Hempstead, Long Island. And the remarkable thing is that I had been given a violin at the age of 6. And so I started playing. I took violin lessons. And when we moved to Hempstead, they had, the music department in Hempstead was very important, unbeknownst to my family. It was as though God was watching over me, I still say, because there was an excellent orchestra at the high school and a very well-known orchestra instructor. And so by the time I was in elementary school starting in 4th grade, because I had lived in Vallejo, California. So when I got to elementary school, I continued taking violin lessons from renowned teachers, having no idea that the music department was so wonderful. And then I was put into the high school orchestra while I was still in 6th grade, and played. And that high school orchestra wound up being the first high school orchestra ever invited to play in Carnegie Hall. So my claim to fame is that I played in Carnegie Hall.
That's great.
Just by luck.
Do you play today?
No, I don't.
No, but you said the violin was over there?
My first violin given to me at the age 6, which I let my right in the corner over there, next to the TV set. I let my grandkids paint it, and not thinking ever that I would find it so nostalgic that I played the violin. And I really had no idea at the time that I let them paint it that the orchestra that I played in was the first orchestra to play in Carnegie Hall, and that we also had in our orchestra some survivors of the Holocaust, which got me interested in further Holocaust studies. That the orchestra leader had Holocaust survivors come, and they were saved. They were the members of the orchestra that played at the concentration camps, and those that survived were invited to come and be teachers in that high school. And I saw them, but I didn't know what a survivor was then. No one talked about it.
Very interesting. Were you involved in any Jewish activities in high school?
Nope. Actually, I was a BBG treasurer, but BBG was not very active, and I didn't know that it was really a Jewish organization, what it was associated with, because I was very naive and was brought up mostly to ignore what Judaism was all about, because my parents, again, wanted so much to just be Americans. I had no religious background. I knew I wanted to participate a little bit with kids who were Jewish, but at that time in the high school there was a lot of prejudice, and so BBG was there, but it wasn't. It couldn't be out there.
So tell me about the anti-Semitism that you faced in high school.
In high school, it was very subtle anti-Semitism. It was if people were selected to be in leadership positions, usually Jews weren't chosen. And at the end of at graduation time, a few of us shared that none of us got. It was a GO key. I can't remember what GO stood for, but it was a little award that the school gave for outstanding participation. And even though I had been in the orchestra for 6 or 7 years, I was kind of discounted, and a couple of the other leaders said they too felt as though the Jewish kids were overlooked. But I never felt outward hostility. I never felt cast aside. What if there was any? I was a bit oblivious to it, perhaps because my parents weren't immersed in the Jewish community.
How about college? Did you go to college?
I did. I went to Queens College in Queens, New York, and a lot of the college students there were Jewish. There was a huge Jewish presence there. So there again, I was mostly oblivious to anything that was going on surrounding Judaism, and I felt immersed in the school like anyone else would.
Did you get involved in any Jewish activities?
Not in college. No, I was too busy trying to get my degree and stay on top of things. And I worked when I wasn't going to school. I worked because I was, again, from a poor Jewish family, and if I wanted books and anything extra, I had to have the money for them. So
what kind of jobs did you do?
I was a bookkeeper, and I worked in offices. I worked for a construction company doing their books. At the time, computers had just come on board. There were like huge rooms devoted to computers in Queens College, but I still worked the old National Cash Register NCR machine for bookkeeping. It was all cards and not yet transferred over to the great computers.
So what was your degree in?
My degree was in education. My major was in education. I don't remember what my minor was.
And what year did you graduate?
Oh my goodness, I don't remember.
Okay. And then, did you have a career after graduation?
I got married just before I graduated or immediately after I graduated, I can't remember which. And my career was taking care of my home so my husband could graduate. And then I think right immediately after graduation, I taught for a couple of years. So I taught and took care of the household, but my focus was on his graduating and becoming, he went to medical school, so getting his degree, not so much mine, but I loved teaching. I taught for about 4 or 5 years, and then I had taught back in New York, and when we moved to Colorado, they were paying so little for teachers. I decided that I wouldn't teach here. I think they were paying $4.95 an hour, would you believe? When I worked for the Title I, whatever, I can't remember who was president and Title I, but I made a good living. I made like $19 an hour teaching because I taught in a special program in a black school, and I loved it. I loved it. I loved the kids. So when I came to Colorado, that was it.
In terms of religious observation, does your household resemble the one in which you grew up?
No, my household, there's a lot more Judaica around. We do Friday night dinners. National Council of Jewish, I plug for NCJW, meeting the women of NCJW and getting immersed in Judaism with the help of NCJW actually changed my life. I didn't know what it was to be Jew. I didn't know what it was to be Jewish until I came to Colorado. And the community here, the Jewish community here, was, for me, a miracle community. And I had no idea we would be talking about this in the interview. I thought it would mostly be what I did for council. But it just changed my life.
Well, and that's a great segue into NCJW. So when did you get involved in NCJW?
Shortly after I came here, it had a traveling theater, and it was kind of like an extension for my mom. My mom was always interested in theater, and when I heard about NCJW's traveling theater, I thought, oh my God, my mother should have known about this. She would have loved this. So although I didn't get involved so much in theater, I knew that National Council of Jewish Women supported children's traveling theater, and at that time here in Denver, it was the premier little theater for children to see what plays were all about, the wonderful way in which they involved the kids in theater. You have to realize there was no theater here in the 70s and the early 80s. There was no place for kids to go to see plays that NCJW brought them. So it was just one of the little things that NCJW had that attracted me to it.
What other projects interested you in NCJW?
Well, they also had, there was a mobility project going on. It meant helping handicapped and the elderly get to their appointments or just get around town. And that too just amazed me because there was nothing like that going on in New York. I know because I had to help people get around. It was the reaching out to everybody that NCJW did here that absolutely astounded me. It just at the time was, to me, something I had never seen before.
Did you ever hold a leadership role at NCJW?
I did. Eventually, I became president for a couple of years, but I did it with a few other women. I think I was co-president. It's very hard for me to remember. But the friendships that I made and the co-mingling of things that we did for the community was something absolutely totally new to me. The women were friendly. They wanted to help. They wanted to give. I can't remember if I worked in the council bargain corner before my presidency or if because of it I went on to do the little bit with the presidency. But that bargain corner was a thrift shop that was huge at the time. Before there were thrift shops in Colorado, it was probably one of the only ones around. And all of us loved cleaning it up, making it into a beautiful store for those less fortunate to be able to come into to purchase goods that they needed. We had Halloween parties there for the community. We had all kinds of events, and we also made the people coming in to do their purchasing feel as though they were coming into a department store rather than just any old neglected place to find goods. We established a board for Bargain Corner. Channel 7 News came in to see what we had done and knew about it from the community. So whenever we had a sale or if we had a special event, they wanted to come in to feature it on television at the time, which was a big deal. I didn't realize in '71 in Colorado, TV was a little different from the way it was in New York in 1971. So we were featured on Bargain Corner. We ran we had a special project where women with teens who had families left their children with the Florence Crittenton Center at the time, came and worked at Bargain Corner. Florence Crittenton paired with us to take care of the kids, and that program went on through Jewish Family Services to be a program showing how Jewish women could help the women of a less fortunate community learn a trade, work as interns, we called them, and then get a job while they got childcare from Florence Crittenton. Florence Crittenton went on to make it a major program of theirs. And to my knowledge, it's still going on. As Florence Crittenton became larger and larger, that program became larger and larger, and they eventually did a film about it and worked on it. But Channel 7 helped promote it.
What do you think you're the most proud of all the things you've done for NCJW?
For NCJW, I think, well, there were two things. Well, there were two things. I forgot about this. Shalom Park was established during the time I was very active in NCJW, and the NCJW women supplied Shalom Park with recreational amenities, films, and whatever we were using at the time for entertainment. And we started a sing-along program there that was started by Charlotte. I can't remember her name, but there were women came and kept that sing-along program going at Shalom Park for years. And then I was able to do a Torah study program. It was called A Taste of Torah, and I did it for the first 7 years of Shalom Park. They knew I was representing National Council of Jewish Women, and that program actually got me started in my own Torah study, which has turned out for me to be the most incredible thing of my life. So that that and just all the things I did kept me going.
What do you think makes NCJW unique?
For me, it was the camaraderie, a lack of pressure on just fundraising. It was not fundraising, but it was doing things for the community. That no matter what you do, and I used to say, no, we have to be focused. We have to be focused on one thing. But NCJW, if there's a problem, they take it on and they do it all. And they're not focused, so you need focus to advertise something rather than say, just join NCJW and what? Well, and you can find something to do for your community. You can do it well, you can do it often, you can do it as long as you want, and you'll see other people's eyes light up and have fun with whatever it is you want to do. It's all encompassing. And my mistake is you don't have to have a single focus in an organization. You can have a huge focus, and if your leadership knows how to keep inspiring it and has enough energy, it can be an organization that just absolutely allows a community to thrive, as I've watched NCJW thrive.
So what do you think the impact NCJW has had on the community is?
Well, I know that the impact, it's been a hidden impact that, another thing we started way back in the 70s was the school backpack program. It started as put a lot of things for kids in luggage and come bring it into one location, and then we'll get it into the schools by inviting the schools to come and get what they need for their kids. Well, over the years, it became the school backpack program. Nobody knows that it originated with NCJW, but I do have some pictures showing those early days when we brought our suitcases with items that we got donated from, I think Target was here, it may have been Kmart, going back that far, but yeah, that was another one of the things that was started that is just a secret known to only those who were around at the time. But things like, well, that and other programs that we provided to the schools just evolve into larger programs, and that's what we want to see, and we can smile and say, oh, I remember when we just met in a room and did things, and it took hold and became part of the community.
Have you ever attended any large NCJW conferences?
Yes, I used to go to the conferences when they were held. I can't remember where. I think I went to one in Florida and in New York. Yeah, that way we were able to share information about what we were doing and what other communities were doing, and we could link into them and bring them into our own community, and other communities took upon themselves what they were doing. It was all about working for the community.
Who are the NCJW members who really impressed you over the years?
There was a woman by the name of, names escape me, I'm old. I mentioned her name to you when we came, Flo Dubowitz. Flo Dubowitz was an unsung hero. She worked like a demon. She didn't like to have other people getting involved in helping her, so we kind of did what we could around her. But she established the scholarship program, and it was hers for many years, and she did a great job. We all try helping her, but no, she would take it and run with it. And other people took other projects and ran with them too. Charlene Spiegelman was the woman who ran with Shalom Park and making sure that the people there had their music program. She knew they loved music. She would compile all the music. She brought it in, she played the instruments, and then later on when she couldn't do as much, she encouraged other people to come in. But she started it never said anything to anybody, just did her job, but everyone knew that she came from NCJW. Then there was Toots Siegel, did the community theater, did NCJW. And she made it a project of her own. It was hard to take anything away from her. And, you know, looking back now, these women needed to have these projects because they were good at it. They insisted upon doing it, and they ran with them. They were wonderful projects.
What sort of difference has NCJW made in your life?
Well, it made every difference. It enabled me to be take more pride in being a Jewish woman, to work with women. It allowed me to see the energy these women have. And all these women did things not to get their name anywhere. They just did them because they love doing them. You do for the love of doing.
Have you ever belonged to any other Jewish organizations?
Yeah, I belong to Hadassah, and it's easy to write a check and give it to Hadassah, and it goes to Hadassah Hospital in Israel to support the hospital. But they don't need me to come in and do anything because they're interested in supporting Hadassah Hospital. So I can just write a check and support Hadassah Hospital. I don't have to come in and play cards or do social things to find community. I like to be a doer, like the women of National Council of Jewish Women, to do things for the community and also support the community monetarily any way I can.
Anything else you want to share?
I've always known that NCJW was important to me. I never thought I'd have an opportunity to share how important it was to me and maybe even recognize how important it was to me in my early days of becoming a member of this community. And I think it inspired me to become so proud of being Jewish, not just being an American, but being a Jewish American.
Well, I really thank you for your time today.